Welcome. Thank you for joining us. My name is Sue DeCaro, and I'm here with my good friend and colleague, Erin Taylor. And today we are very excited to be sharing this time with Partha and Callie Nandi. To tell you a little bit about them, Partha Nandi is an MD and the creator and host of the internationally syndicated medical lifestyle television show, Ask Dr. Nandi. He is the chief health editor at WXYZ ABC Detroit, a practicing physician and a renowned international speaker. His appearances include TED Talks, college commencements, numerous charity functions, and premier medical meetings such as Digestive Disease Week. Dr. Nandi has partnered with the Ministry of Health in Jamaica and India and collaborated with the World Health Organization. Dr. Nandi delivers passionate and inspiring talks to diverse audiences. He continues to travel to international conferences and symposia, meeting with global health leaders on his quest to improve healthcare quality, access, and advocacy, to empower the world in his mission to be your own health hero. Callie Nandi is a mom, wife, producer, spiritual seeker, yoga doer, dance lover, and a work in progress, aren't we all? She's co-creator and executive producer of the Emmy-Award-Winning television show Ask Dr. Nandi. She's married to and co-creator of the show with Dr. Partha Nandi, who is the show's host. They have 3 children. Callie obtained her bachelor's degree in nursing from St. Mary's College in Notre Dame, Indiana. She's very passionate about empowerment and advocacy to achieve health and wellness for the entire family. Wow, you guys are very busy people.
Keeps us up.
I'm a little exhausted.
We'll never be bored with this guy in our lives. So he has dreams for days and goals for days and vision for days. So it's a very exciting life. I'll be honest with you there. It's a very exciting life. But thank you so much for having us on.
Yeah, really, it's really our pleasure.
We're delighted. So to start off, Partha, not only are you a medical doctor, but also a host of this television show, this fabulous talk show, combining medical advice with informational conversations about fitness and nutrition. Can you tell us a little bit, both of you, how you started the show and how it became so popular?
So I'll tell you, there's 2 events in my life that really made it really possible for me to understand the importance of advocacy and what we call being your own health hero. And I told this to Callie. When I was 6 years old, I was sick with a disease called rheumatic fever, almost lost my life. And at that time, my biggest health hero, my advocate who left everything, was my father. My father was a brilliant man. Probably 3 people in the country at that time did what he did. And what he said was, at that time, it didn't matter. I'm dropping everything to help my son. And my mom, who basically went through every single tool she could find to get me better. And a physician who really, to me, took me with his hands and his knowledge and gave me my life back. Because if it wasn't for those folks, I would really not have a life that I have today. And so that event shaped me to doing what I'm doing now, which is medicine. Then after I was in medical practice, my father, the same gentleman who really saved my life, along with my physician, Dr. Chandrasekhar, had a devastating stroke. And what happened was, all of a sudden, I changed from somebody who was delivering care to now becoming the caregiver and being the patient advocate. And I learned a tremendous amount being in that role. And what I learned is that being a health advocate, being a health hero for yourself and your family is just tremendously important. I'll give you examples. I was in the hospital floor advocating. My dad, who couldn't speak at the time, advocating for him not to get the wrong medicine, to get treated for infections that I thought he needed. And there was some resistance there. And I can just imagine what it's like for people who don't know what to do and how to advocate. So we decided we would do something to help with that advocacy. And that's how Ask Dr. Nandi was born. It's an idea where we want to give people the tools that they need to live a better life. So whether it be in sickness or health. So if you're someone who's in great shape and doing well, great. We want you to stay that way. We want to give you tools in what? In purpose, tools in spirituality, tools in movement with purpose, as well as nutrition, and then go to what I think is a crisis in America, which is that we don't have a family unit. So we're losing that sense of community. So we call that tribe. So those 5 pillars of living a purposeful life with spirituality, having a tribe, then using nutrition and movement to really fuel you. So he said, we're going to use these principles to really help our listener and our viewers to live better lives. And then, we created this television show, and I talked to Callie about it, and what's really inspiring is that if it wasn't for this amazing woman next to me, couldn't have done it. Because, 1 + 1, they teach you in elementary school is 2, but 1 + 1 is really equal to 4 for us, because, our strengths complement each other, our weaknesses complement each other, and it's great. Listen, I'm not saying we don't ever argue, we don't ever fight, which would be unrealistic to say, but we have something that's incredibly solid, which is mutual respect. When you have respect, you can get through disagreements because you know that the person has value. It doesn't mean that you always will agree, but you respect their opinion. So with that respect,
I think even when we do disagree, I don't think we go below the belt with our comments. I mean, are our comments always perfect? Probably not, but I don't think that they're as evil-spirited as I know people can get, and that's what I get it. It's no judgment. It's just, I have such a respect for him, and I think we just speak to each other in a different way because of that mutual respect. And I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever had anyone believe in me as much as Partha believes in me. And I think he saw things that I was capable of. I always cry when we talk about this, that I didn't know I was capable of. But when you have someone that you believe in so much, the sky's really the limit. I mean, there's so much I want to do to make sure he reaches more people. So that's really inspiring. And that's why we did the show. He would be talking about illnesses in such a passionate way and in such layman's terms and at such length with people that, he didn't have to spend his time or his words to educate them. And I thought, God, I just feel like more people need to know this. And then we met a producer that said the same thing. We were at a dinner party, and he was like, you know what? I just kind of feel like people don't know that. They don't know that they're going to be treated different by the way they look or what kind of insurance they have, or when they go in the hospital, people treat you different based on a myriad of things because of the way we are just human designed, that people are going to treat you different if they're paid on salary versus if they're paid by the hospital. And understanding that process helps you manage your healthcare even better. So those were the kinds of concepts that started in the beginning that we thought, I think more people could use this information to live longer, healthier, stronger, happier lives, and less nursing home years, let's say.
And what happens is that I'm still a full-time practicing physician. So during the day, I'm still doing quote unquote my day job. But what we do is we have meetings early in the morning and late at night. And what happens is, because I've got a partner that really understands and has that same sense of empowerment, we can accomplish a lot. I mean, in a few short years, we now reach 85 million homes in the US. We reached 90 countries outside the US, and it wasn't accidental. We used one guiding principle. It's pretty simple. It's tell the truth almost always. It's harder to remember what you're saying when you're lying. It's really easy to remember it if you're saying the same thing again and again. And as we said, what we say to each other is what we tell the audience. And so I think there's something to that where people understand and it resonates with them.
What do you think? What you're saying is that we practice what we preach. And
we
sometimes
do.
It's not easy.
We do, but a lot of times, you meet people that they just say things because the fact that it's status quo and it's supposed to be. We really try to live. No, we're not perfect. We try to live the same way as
we try to live organic. We try to, be mindful. We try to, move naturally. All of those things. I don't think anyone's ever perfect, but those kinds of things. I mean, if we're going to go out and tell people those things, we try to live that way as well.
And people ask us, if I wanted to make a show, what would I have to do? And I say, you really have to find your passion. It's not about do A, B, C, D, and then this will happen. It's not that. You got to find your passion. Like both of you are. This is something that you're passionate about. You're spending your valuable time that you have. You could be doing anything else. But what are you doing? You're educating people so that they will understand what you're talking about. And so you don't have to make up a story. It is what you are. So I think that is part of our you're asking how we got started and how we've expanded. That's really it. But this partnership of two people that have really got each other's back and understand what the goal and purpose is really important. When we get out of bed, almost always we jump out of bed because we know the day ahead will really bring solutions to people. So that's kind of a nutshell what our show is about. And then same thing with our social media, our digital media. We have a book coming out in September.
Our charity.
And our charity, all of it is same direction, which is really cool. To be married to someone and who shares your life passion and is your partner, not only for your family, but for your life, is just enthralling, and it is a blessing that a lot of people don't have. And I feel super blessed, to be with somebody this talented and also this passionate.
We would really never see each other if we didn't work together because he works a lot.
So it's a thing you have that partnership.
That's right. Partha wanted to go into cardiothoracic surgery, which, if you don't know, surgeons are on call. They have to get them. It's always emergency surgeries. Cardiology is a tough, it's a tough field, cardiac surgery. And he decided not to go into that because he knew that he wouldn't be able to be the husband and father that he wanted to be. So I'm grateful for that because he gets off on work, he gets off on helping people, connecting with people, talking with people, and that's what he gets to do all day long. So
the idea is that I tell my kids that if you can change the life of one person in your lifetime, your life is worthwhile. And then if we can do that, that's what drives. It's a lot of times people are worried about how big their house can be and how many more cars you can get. It's really not about that. It's the influence you can make on this planet, because as you know, I have to tell you, there's so much negativity. And if we can flip the switch and really get some positivity in health and wellness and then expand it, it's tremendous. So that's why I think that when she says I work a lot, it's because of the fact that I'm passionate about it, because I think it's a great opportunity. What a blessing it is to build health. And so that's what started our show and continues on every day.
Can I tell one more story? Well, we get a ton of calls. We actually tell people, people we know. If you needed something, you're like, crap, one of my son, my daughter, my husband, my mom is in the hospital. We would tell you, please text us. Let us see, maybe you can run something by Partha. A lot of times, just having someone, even if he doesn't see them as a patient, he can say, okay, let's think about these labs, or, I'll give you my opinion on whether or not I think your physician is doing the right thing, or I'll give you some questions you might want to ask or think about. And so we do that a lot. And so we get a lot of calls, we get a lot of texts, a lot of calls from people saying, hey, can Dr. Nandi talk about this or that? And I'm always amazed, because I run out of words in the day. I get tired and I'm like, I'm done in the day. Like I cannot handle one more thing. But he really can. It is incredible. It is incredible. We've been married now, it'll be 6 years. We've been together 9. It's incredible the amount of things he can handle in a day. And it might be 10 o'clock at night and I'll be like, hey, my sister's cousin's brother's nephew, they've got some medical something or other. He'll say, no problem. What's the number? I'll give him a call. I mean, he's never, even to me, go, oh, that's so annoying. Oh, let me get to it later. Because what he says is that it is a real privilege. And you know how that feels when someone asks your help? They're like, wow, can you help me? I want to run something by you. I really need you right now. Like that feeling of being able to help someone, that's the only thing I can equate it to. Like if my mom or sister or brother called me and said, Callie, I really need your help right now. I mean, I would drop everything. So that's the only thing I can equate it to. And he really does feel like it's a total privilege for him to have that knowledge and be able to share it with someone that's in a time of need.
And it's a taught skill. I learned from my parents. My mom and dad always taught me that. My mom told me countless stories of my grandpa, who was a physician as well, what he did for people. That background that I had really helped me. So I was born in India, and I immigrated to the United States at age 9. And so to me, some of the things we talk about in our show, which is, spirituality, mindfulness, prayer, yoga, was a way of life, right? For me, I was young, but I was old enough to remember kind of what a billion people do. So to me, it wasn't this new age thing, it was just what people did. And then as I grew older and I realized Western culture, and I said, this is kind of cool. And why that's important is that in my practice today and our show, we talk about stuff that I saw every day. I saw my parents praying every day. Talk about spirituality and mindfulness. It wasn't something that was, let's be spiritual today. It wasn't that. It was just like, there's a way of life. You just are spiritual. And I learned from a very young age that, I was a small part of the universe. I was very important and I was loved, but I was not the
world
thing,
did not revolve around
and that it's all about me, that really I'm a part of the universe and I can really help to make it better. I was told that at a young age, and that is influential in what we do today. And that I cannot tell you. My dad and his work ethic. I mean, my dad worked tirelessly to make sure we had everything we did, and that work ethic, I always saw, that he was always helping his family, and he was always present. And that's why, I'm not perfect by any means, but we always try to be present for our kids and our family, because you can't do it from a distance. You just can't. I mean, you could try. Obviously, if you don't have a choice, you can, FaceTime someone or do a Google Hangout, I guess, or Skype. But it's not the same thing, right? The look in the eye, the touch. Anything I ever did, my dad was always out there. I have no idea how he did it, but he was always there. I looked out there, and it's always there. That's what I promised myself. She told you the story that I left cardiothoracic surgery because I knew I wouldn't be there. But what was also important to me was, to me, charity starts at home. Charity starts with your own family. If you help everybody else, but your own family doesn't know you, that's just not right. So we try to practice that. And it comes back to my parents. And it's so important that, this is your life's work, is that being a parent is so critical, that if you set a great example. I remember the stuff my mom told me when I was 5, 6, 7 years of age, when she thought I wasn't even listening. And so a story I always tell is that despite your best efforts, guess what? You become your parents. Despite your best efforts, no matter what you say, you kind of become your parents. And you think you'll kind of, but you realize what they say. So I think that for parents who are watching out there, just keep doing it and be present, because the lessons they learn, at least for me and many of my friends, and Callie too, she'll tell you, really stick with you. And your parents were very influential in your life, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Her mom, tell them about your mom she always was a fitness and nutrition.
My mom and dad worked out every day of their life. So fitness and nutrition was a huge part of my growing up. I mean, my mother, even though it was the 80s and she was, low fat, everything, that's what everybody did. I mean, at least she was very conscious of what we put in our mouths. And I remember her, we didn't drink pop, we didn't have desserts very often. Like I said, they work out every day of their lives. They're 65 now, and they are.
Nobody would say that.
No, I mean, they are great-looking people. My dad has a six-pack. My mom is very well put together. She has an incredible, aura about her. She has a great presence, and so I learned a lot about taking care of your body from my parents.
And the thing that she would tell me is that every day after school, Callie and her mom would sit down and she would, watch a show with her, they'd chop vegetables or do something. And it was those memories, even though they were common.
We would watch talk shows. We'd watch Oprah. We'd talk about topics, big, deep topics a lot. I mean, at that time, Oprah was really getting into topics that mattered. And so we would have these great conversations, and my mom would teach me how to cook. And so we would cook and chat after school.
And chopping onions, chopping vegetables. And this is something people think that, you have to make this quality time. And then they're like searching for the quality moment. I mean, you can grocery shop. You can grocery shop and make it quality time. I remember one of my technicians, she had a very difficult marriage, and she said, I was talking to her, and I won't mention her name, but I've talked to you about her. And what she said was, one of the best times was grocery shopping, as my mom is singing all throughout the grocery store. She was like, she's a big Motown band, like, Supremes, and there's grocery store, quality time. And people don't understand, quality time is just time that you spend being present with your kids. They don't care what you do. They don't really want, it's like, okay, this is now quality time, this is non-quality time. They're chopping vegetables. And it was important enough that she told me how many, 20, 25 years later, telling me that this is important. But that's how you form relationships. And the basis of what she does today and what I do today is in no small part because of all the work that our parents did. And that's, to me, a crisis in our nation. And I'm glad that you're doing the work you're doing, because without the family unit, you don't have your tribe. And without the tribe, you really are lost. You're kind of like a little boat in an ocean, as big as the Pacific, because you wander wherever the direction of the wave, and the wave could be by social media, it could be your current group of friends, or whatever the trend is. When you have parents that give you a firm basis of what's going on, you're rooted. So you know what? When a wave comes, you're like, you know what?
If you get a hole in the boat, you got some people to help you. That's the thing. You could move, nothing wrong with moving and doing all this great stuff and being a wanderer of the world. That's fantastic, of course, but you always have to keep, you gotta, I don't know. It's a tough life being alone when your boat has a hole. It's a tough way to go.
And parents and parenting, most important job in the world. And so, and again, we all know, the four of us that are here, it's easier said than done, right? So there's situations when your kid is just screaming and there really doesn't seem a good reason. But you have to hang on and realize that that moment shapes how you behave is how they remember, how they're to behave when they're stressed. If you lose it and start cursing and going insane, guess what they're going to do? The same thing. And it's no accident that you have parents, it's not 100% clearly, but they have parents that do a great job in raising kids, have great kids. So again, the point being that, when you're parents, and even if you're doing other great things, that you have to remember the examples that you send to these folks, to these little people, really make an impact their entire life.
And I bet you guys have a lot of stories and experience with all of that. So I'm sure you have a lot of stories.
Yes. Tons of stories.
I feel like we monopolized a little bit of time.
Oh no, we could listen to you guys for hours. I'm sorry to say this, but you guys are so darn cute together.
I agree.
Yeah.
And fun.
You guys are.
We have a lot of fun.
You guys are darn cute.
Well, I'll tell you, I get flustered. I get flustered and I get overstimulated. I get where, like, the kids are running around and the phone rings, and like my 13-year-old will have music and be like, Mom, do you like this shirt? I'm just like, okay, I need to take a second. Like, there's so many things coming at me. And Partha will just start, he'll turn off the one radio, he'll take one of the boys, and then he'll just kind of start singing. And he lightens the mood right away, because usually it only takes me a couple seconds to get over it. I take a couple seconds and I'm like, okay, I can sing. And one of his favorite songs is Trailers for Sailor Rent, Rooms to Let, 50 cents, which is a totally old school song. And I'd actually never heard it before I met him. And although he's a huge hip hop lover, for whatever reason, that's the song that brings the whole situation down.
It's my breathing, and so my nurses know when I'm singing that we're just trying to calm the place down, and so I think that, but she does a great job. She's probably, overstating the fact, but all of us get there, and it's just a matter of if you're willing to admit it or not. But the key is how you then react and how you then adjust the situation. What you do really affects what they do. I really believe that. And if you are calm and you can say, listen, talk to them rationally or diffuse it with whatever, that's what they'll learn. So I think, but we are having a blast with our kids, because to me, they tell me, and I was saying this off camera before, that in our society, it seems the very young and the very old are just left to kind of out to pasture, because the very young and the very old inconvenience our very important busy lives. And so, we would rather not deal with the little ones because they don't make sense, and the older ones because they get too much time. The thing is, the older folks can give you so much perspective, right? They can teach you because they've been where you have been, and they can teach you so much in your life. And so ignoring them and not making them part of your life is such a tragedy, and that affects them in a negative way. The younger people, to me, our kids, always give me perspective and let me know that this is what it's all about. At the end of the day.
They sure keep you grounded, that's for sure.
But they tell you what it's important, because when you look You look at we said it yesterday, to be three again, because it's like walking around and you have a little car and whatever else, and then
we just got some beautiful artwork.
See what I'm talking about? I mean, this is what it's all about, right? I mean, this masterpiece is what it's all about. It's not about how many likes you get on Instagram or whoever knows what the heck's going on. But this is the real stuff. So that's what keeps us going. And it's awesome. And we,
Beautiful.
this is what keeps, I'm telling you, she sends me pictures of the kiddos at work, and it just melts my heart. Because also that the other thing is that to be present is that, you're never going to get that moment back.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't wait for you, and you have that opportunity to shape lives, but also you have that opportunity to enjoy the all the wisdom they give you, and it runs out. If you blow it, it's just gone. You don't get that back.
I think another big piece of what made you're talking about when you were young and the things that your dad did for you, and Partha's dad has been ill for the last few years, and he had a stroke a couple years ago. We do live 2 doors down from his family, and we help take care of him. But his sister, she really is an incredible, incredible human being. She has given up everything in her life, and she takes full care of both of his parents. I mean, we live 2 doors down. But it's not the same, we do help. We are there every day. We're there multiple times a day.
She was just there an hour ago. I mean,
yeah, we're there multiple times a day.
This is the kind of partner I have. She was there just an hour ago helping because
I go twice a day and he goes twice a day. But it's nowhere near the sacrifices that she has made. And she's just been a huge inspiration to me. And their family has really taught me. My family is incredible, of course. They do everything you're supposed to do for our elderly, and my grandparents, my great-grandparents, they're lovely. But the amount of sacrifice that his family has made to take care of his father is nothing short of incredible. I mean, it is unbelievable. He actually was in the hospital just a few weeks ago, and the doctor that saw him had seen him 8 years prior and said, it is shocking to me that he's still with us. And there is absolutely no other reason other than, you and your sister. So I did want to compliment you and, of course, her it's incredible what they do. I mean, the time it takes to try to feed his dad, and she is tireless, and it is, I don't know a lot of people.
It's what you do, though. It's what we're raised, it's remembering that my parents were always there for us and would do anything possible to make our lives better.
And not to generalize too much, but it's an incredible also Indian philosophy. It's an Eastern philosophy. I think of Eastern philosophy, your family is really high up there. I really do believe that, but it is definitely a different mentality than a lot of Western philosophies.
But it's pretty much human nature. You kind of do what you're taught. And what I was taught was that my sister and I were the most important part of their lives, no doubt about it. So when that happened, I spent the first year that my dad was in the hospital in therapy, I was there every night in the hospital with him, and that's what you do. So I think that again, the basic point is that you reap what you sow. You gotta be there. You gotta be present, and your kids will benefit, and you will thrive because of it. No doubt about it. I'm selfish as the next guy. I think that I get so many benefits in watching my kids thrive and do well because of the support we give them.
It's beautiful.
That's incredible. I was just talking with a friend the other day. She just started working as a therapist with geriatric patients in nursing homes. And she was telling me how terrible it is in the environment that she works in. She loves working with the elderly and really helping them work through whatever troubles they're facing or, anything that's coming up for them. But she said, it's terrible. These people, it's like their families have just forgotten about them. Like they just don't even remember they exist. And I obviously don't know the people that she's referring to, the elderly people, but I think what you guys are saying about your parents were, and since, Partha, we'll talk about your dad, since he's you know, he needs very intensive regular care right now. Because he was so present for you and family was so important to him, he was always there and he made you a priority. And then, you know, it's kind of like a full circle moment. And when it comes back to where he needs the care, come back and make him the priority. And as I think about parenting and, you know, how busy parents are and how hard it is to juggle everything, and I think that sometimes parents get a little bit, they miss the real point. You know, they work so hard to make so much money so that they can give their kids the elite soccer team and the, you know, violin lessons and the piano lessons and private tutors and whatever. But really what their child wants is their attention and their presence.
And their time.
And if parents could, you know, the more parents we get to realize that, the ripple effect of that across a lifespan is incredible. Because then when those parents, just like your dad, when those parents get to the full circle nearing the completion of their lives, then their kids will hopefully do exactly as you're doing with your dad and putting them as the priority. And then it's like a beautiful, it's just kind of like a beautiful circle of life that happens.
That's exactly it. So when we go and help my dad, you know, our kids go with us. They see it. They see what we do. They don't see us abandoning our father because of the fact that, you know, it's just inconvenient. They see us saying, you know what, that it's important, and then that's what we do. The important point you made, Aaron, was about the nursing homes and the care that people get. It's not just your friend; it's universal. The care may be good or bad, but you know, families tend to forget, and it's a symptom of our society. It's not, to me, the root problem. It's the symptom. So I think that our nation is the greatest nation on earth, but what we value more than anything else is independence and the self. And that's great, but it should come as a balance. And what happens is that the individual is valued more than the family. It's your individual accomplishment, your individual pleasure is put above the collective pleasure of the family. And that's it's developed over time. A story I'll tell you is that when my dad was in the rehab place, when he was finished with his hospitalization, he was in the rehab unit, and I was sitting there with my dad. It was social hour. And you know, they had a Dean Martin song that came out and said, "When the moon hit the sky," and man, the entire place completely emptied out dance floor. It was like they were teenagers again. The whole place was jamming. I'm serious, the whole place emptied out. Like, when the moon hits the sky, I was singing. I'm doing my best, Dean Martin, my dad, just to kind of get him motivated. And I said hello to this woman. I said, "Hello, how are you?" She did a 360. And she said, you're saying hello to me? Nobody says hello to me. And it was so sad, but it's just what happens in these places. People drop them off, don't even ever come back again, because you know, it's like, I don't see you. You're over there, and somebody's taking care of you. I'm done. My responsibility is done. I think what we have to show from an early age is what you're saying, and that beautiful cycle and circle of life continues. That like when we take our kids and they see what we do with our dad, it's not going to be a shock for them.
Live there 5-10 years. I mean, that's a long, lonely time.
But the thing is that we take our kids when we with my dad, so
Yeah,
they
we
see
do.
what we do.
Yeah, well, we don't get sitters. You know, we have a lot of different events and stuff. Of course, we get sitters, but we don't get sitters for just any old reason.
Right.
We really don't.
And they see us cleaning my dad. You know, I don't get graphic, but you know, we have to help him get up, and you know, they see they're over on the other side looking at his face, but they see us doing it. And they go, "Oh, that's what you're supposed to do." That's normalcy for them. That is that, you know, your kids and your grandkids should help your parents, and that will be passed on to guess what, their kids. And that's, we have to really pass on what is important and what we can do to our family, what the expectations are. And it doesn't always have to be easy. That's the other thing, is that, you know, we have to really have our expectations higher than we have for our kids, is that they have to also reciprocate. You know, it's a two-way street. You know, your kids can't say sup and walk out. into their bedroom and not even converse with you. Because if that happens, you know, as a human being, you have a parent that's really trying and committed. The kid's like, "Sup, I'm out." And, you know, if you ask them, you know, "Hey, what's going on?" "No, nothing." "And how's your day?" "Good." You know, and so we have
that
a
doesn't fly in our house. Oh yeah, our 13-year-old Charlie, you know, she's had to.
She changed a bit.
She did. She's changed quite a bit.
You can't give one-word answers in our house, even if you have to lie about it.
You have to sit at the table. You have to sit up. You have to have your feet straight. You know, you have to engage. We say engage with family.
And it's not her fault, right? Because everybody around her is, "What's up?"
Not all her friends.
I mean, most of the class. We went there and I said, "This is an epidemic." You know, everybody's like, huh? I mean, they're just one-word answers, looking at their phones. So
we also make forced family fun at our house. So you have to do stuff together.
Because once you start going, the momentum takes over, and then you realize by accident this is actually a good time. So I think there's a lot of things. But the key is that they'll remember that. They'll remember the stuff that you did, and then remember fondly of it and do the same thing with their kids. So, you know, we are the biggest role model, no matter what people say. We're the biggest role model as parents for kids, and we can really put them in the right direction and also the wrong direction. And so, you know, wish there was a class on parenting that was required before you had children, because, you know, it's really a tough job, and you really need to have your mindset. One of the things we talk about in Being Your Own Health Hero is that you have to have a healthy mindset, a mindset that's filled with purpose, a mindset that says, you know what, I have a goal-driven life. And if you have that, then you can do every job well, including taking care of your kids. But until your mind is there, and if you're not happy with your life, for sure you're not going to be happy with your kids. So I think that's also important. You've got to be able to understand who you are and take the time to get yourself straight in order to make other people better.
Well, I think what you've said is just, you know, resonates, I'm sure, with Aaron as well, but certainly with me. And it's a full circle. It is really a full circle. And in today's day and age and the work that we're doing in this world, there's so much disconnection from parent to child. And it's no wonder we're leaving the elderly, because we're leaving the children too. So, you know, it's kind of a disconnect on both ends. And, you know, we hope with the work that we're doing in the world, you know, with all the people, all our tribe, so to speak, all over the world that is really committed to this mission, that we'll be bringing change about in a full circle, you know, exactly as how you described, that it has to start with the parent, and it has to start with the parent connecting deeply with the child. And then, you know, obviously you can see some sort of change as the parent gets older in that connection coming back around.
And you can't fake it, because kids will know it. If you try to fake it and you're trying to not, and you don't care about them, and you know, when you give the signs that, you know, they are an inconvenient part of your life, they get it. And you get
rebellion. You have to find things that you enjoy doing. I remember when Charlie was young, it was like, oh, playing Barbies is not my favorite thing to do. You know, I was like, oh, but you know, I thought, well, if I just sit here, she's going to tell me what to do anyway. So I'm just going to sit here and hold it, and I'm being part of it, and I'm listening. And if I did something wrong, you know, she would tell me. And with the boys, you know, I try to do other little things like playing tennis, or, you know, we love Legos. They're like 3 puzzles for me. So we kind of do those things together. But, you know, playing race cars, you know, that's not as much my favorite, but you have to will yourself. I mean, listen, you have to, you know, you kind of have to get in the moment and do the things they like to do. And listen, it's not always easy. Sometimes I'm like, I really have a million other things I should be doing right now. And so I have to put it in perspective. I don't want my kids to always think, boy, mommy was always on the computer, or mommy was always on the phone. And believe me, there's times that happens. And I try to really set aside time that, you know, all of that stuff is off so that I can be present, because the life is full and it's busy, and there's and he's busy, and our business is busy, and then we're going next door, and then we've got the 13-year-old that we're running things to. So it is definitely, there's times you're tired, and you're like, you just gotta make it happen.
When the times we're there, we're present and we make it count. I mean, and we don't do monumental things sometimes. There's great stuff. We take them to great places, but other times it's very simplistic things.
Sometimes it's pajamas on Saturday.
We are present. And, you know, she read 3 books last night, 3 books about the do's and don'ts. You know, don't a striped giraffe or a striped zebra should wear striped underwear. Should not wear polka dot underwear. I mean, you know, really, right? So, the idea is that, again, she's present. The kids were, oh, wow, it's amazing. They're both on both sides. I'm over there.
We read books every night.
And it's not just the fact that we check the box off the reading books. You're there and you're giving him your attention, and they know that you think it's important. It doesn't matter what you do. You could be, I don't know, climbing the wall, be in Mount Everest. It doesn't matter. For them, it's that their biological, tribe member is right there with them and cares about them. And they will remember that. And that's what's going to create health and wellness. Talk about health and wellness. Kids that have that kind of spirituality, that kind of upbringing, do better. They have less obesity, less high blood pressure, less heart disease. It's all proven. And so, it's not just like an academic thing, oh, it's kind of cool to do that. It really leads to not only good stuff up here, but the rest of your body. Their immune system is stronger. They live happier lives, stress-free lives. And so it's such an important thing. A small thing like what we do at bedtime may really impact them. And that's the thing. One of the things we talk about in Ask Dr. Nandi is that make small changes, in your life that result in big results in other parts of your or your family's life. So a small little change you do, saying, I always said, I want to be, no matter what, I want to go to bed. I want to tuck them in and kind of read to them and make sure I'm there for their bedtime. It's a small little thing, right? But it yields big changes, and anybody can do that. If you want to pick another time, like maybe in the morning, whatever, get them dressed, drop them off at school. Pick some times if you can't always be there. And all of us cannot be because we juggle a lot. But when you're there, make sure it counts and understand that small little sacrifice that you're making can really yield big results. So I really applaud what you guys are doing too, because when you're fighting the good fight, because it's so easy just to hand them one of these things, right? Hand them one of these things to their phone and have them play for 4 hours, because they will. They will just, because we have enough gadgets and enough stuff, you don't have to do a thing. Or park them in front of the television, or park them in somewhere else where they're no longer in your sight. But really the loser is you and the child, because you're losing on the rich heritage that you can pass on to them, the tools that you can give them, and the pure joy of the interaction you have with somebody who really gets it. They get it far better than we do, right? They understand what's important. So I think it's super cool, and it's not always easy to do from first blush, but it can really be awesome.
You guys are really amazing.
Oh, thank you so much.
Well, he really, you can
I have a question, actually. I have one last question, if I could ask. With everything that's going on in your lives, and I mean, you've described it so beautifully, and it's so obvious how committed you are to your family, your entire family, your community, your tribe, as well as everyone else in the world. And I'm curious what you find the most challenging. I mean, I know there's a lot of challenges juggling so many things and always being present for your children when you're there. But what would you say to the audience watching is the most challenging thing about your lives right now?
Crying. Just probably getting time alone. I mean, we don't, that, like, we're going out for New Year's Eve, and we usually go out every year on New Year's Eve. We always go to dinner, and we love to dance. So night at my parents. So we're excited about that. Being alone probably, listen, we do a lot of fun stuff together because there's a lot of things in the community that we do. So I don't want to pretend like we don't. That's fun. But, being able to do more things for yourself, like, we don't get massages, we just really don't have time in our lives for those kinds of like nails and toe, we just really don't have time for those kinds of things. So sometimes it's tough to balance everything, but everything that comes first is so much more important to us that it's cool. It's all cool.
To me, I feel the same way. It's that I'll say two things at the time for me is, number one, finding enough time with the family, because you really can get sucked into, you're going to shows and you're traveling, and it just gets this whole, you get this whole cycle where you can get sucked into it.
And you have to say no.
And you have to say no, and I do.
Yeah.
I said no to the whole career, so I can do more than that. The thing is that finding more time with the whole family, and especially my wife, because we do try after the kids go to bed as much as possible to talk about what's important and what's important for our lives and our future to really get us grounded. Because she's my partner in everything, including, our lives outside the show. So finding time for that sometimes is challenging. The second most challenging.
But we also know that time together for us makes us stronger, which makes us better parents, it just trickles to everything. So we do it. I mean, listen, at night, we have lots of great intimate talks. We have lists of things to do for work, but sometimes I'm like, I gotta tell you what's on my mind about whatever.
And same thing.
Yeah.
And so I talked to her about it. The second biggest challenge is to, and I do this as a practice every day, is to get centered, to realize what it's all about, right? Because you do so many things and you can be like a rat on a maze or a hamster on that wheel, right? And so I think just breathing, I do it. My mom taught me this a long time ago. She just said, when you're like just going crazy, just take a minute to breathe. And when you breathe and you really breathe, you get that perspective and you really understand what it is all about. And to me, that is so important, because once you get that perspective, you're good to go. And it's very difficult sometimes because there's so many things going on at the same time. There's everything is going on. So those two things are the most challenging things that I find in that order, and finding time with my family and also making sure I have that perspective to see, why am I doing all this and what is it all about, and keeping it centered so that it's healthy.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
No.
I don't really do interviews unless he's here, because in case I can't think of anything, he can always bail me out. He always knows what to say.
Always so appreciated. She's awesome. Very, very talented.
I have two questions that kind of rattled around in my head while you guys were talking, and they're kind of both related to what you were just talking about. Our final question. I'm wondering, I'm thinking about what a typical day must look like for you guys, and it just makes my head hurt thinking about it. But Partha, when you have your practice, your medical practice, and you're making rounds at the hospital, and then you have your TV show, and then you have the news station, and then you have your wife and your family and your dad and your kids, and you still have to eat dinner, you still have to sleep at least a couple hours a night. My first question is, how do you, and I am certain that you do this, how do you stay present in whatever the thing is at the moment when you have 500 other things like kind of just circling around?
A gift that he has. It is unbelievable what he can do in the moment, and this is what makes him such a great partner and listener and father and son and doctor, is because he will never leave you in the moment. So how do you do that?
There's a song right by Macklemore. Have you heard about this? I don't know if you know what Macklemore is. They're kind of a rap pop group, right? And they said 10,000 hours, right? And it goes towards Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called 10,000 Hours. And the idea is that you kind of have to do something for 10,000 hours before you get good at it. So the short answer to your question is just practice. I practice every single day. And I said that to you. The most challenging thing I do is that to stay grounded and understand why I'm doing that, why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that is part and parcel of mindfulness. When you're grounded and you're purposeful, then when you can then use mindfulness to connect the dots, and you say, it doesn't really matter what's going to happen tomorrow, today, what happened before, what's going to happen later on. You stay in the moment, because you realize the only thing you can really change is one thing, right? That moment. Like I'm talking to you right now, that's the only thing I can really have control over. Everything else is either going to happen or has happened. Ain't nothing I can do about that. But I can do something about talking to you and letting you know what I'm talking about and just being in that moment. And the most difficult thing to do when you're there is not worrying about the consequences. Like, and we know that's difficult. It's the most difficult practice of mindfulness, is that not putting judgment on it. Not putting judgment on that activity or that experience, and then just saying that it is what it is, and that's all there is to it. And then practicing it every day makes it almost automatic. So when I am in, seeing a patient and the phone's going off, beeps, this,
and the nurses are knocking, and I mean it's constant.
You have to give them your time, because if you don't, then it's over. And people say, well, you're a great multitasker. I am, but I'm not. I multitask, but I do one thing at a time instead of doing two things at one time. I mean, of course, I feel like everybody else. I sometimes do both. But if you do that one thing well at the time that you're doing it, and then move to the next task, studies have shown you're actually 67% more efficient at doing everything you're doing. Whereas if you try to do everything at one time, you're really much, much less efficient. So
Aaron, I'm so glad you brought this question up, because I'll tell you, you can tell he has a little cold. It's like never happened. But like he wills himself. I watch him do it, and he never says to me, I'm gonna will myself to make this all right. He just wills himself. And so when I know he has a vision or a goal, I know we're gonna do it. Like the show came because we are gonna be delivering the water in small villages throughout India. We are gonna be building hospitals throughout India. I know that. The reason the show is to get the brand, to get the voice, to get the influence, there's no meeting we can't ever get. So I know when he has a goal, it's achieved. And it's the same with the way he wills himself to do things. Do you remember when Michael Jordan won that? Remember when he was sick and he played football? He played basketball. And it was the finals and he was super sick. And he just kept making 3-point after 3-point after 3-point. It was insane. And what he said later was, the basket was just huge. It was just giant. And you could see he just willed himself to do that. And I see Partha do that. I see when he's down or ill or not at his best, he just turns it on. And it goes back to one other cute story. When he graduated from high school, a month after he turned 16. So he was pretty much 15 when he graduated high school. And he had he got an academic scholarship to Ohio State and also to Notre Dame through this program. And his essay to get into school was on empathy. So here he's 15, he's writing an essay on empathy. And then his interview, were you sick then in that interview? Or was it the test you had to take to get your SAT or something?
I was sick, I was ill, and I was going in, but
when he left the interview, he said, there was a panel of people that interviewed you. And he said he left the interview and he was like, I was absolutely helped in there. Like there were words and thoughts, and that even though I was sick, like I just busted it out. And I just think there's something that when that Michael Jordan story and when Partha taps into that, you're willing something, you're tapping into something that I wish I could do that a little bit more.
Well, you do. You're amazing.
No,
but I think it's the universe. If you're religious, like I am, you say God's helping you. If you're not religious, then what happens is that you get back from the universe what you put in it, 110%. If you put crap out, you get crap back in. But if you try to, again, without trying to be, go holier than thou here, that if you try to do the right thing most of the time and try to put things out that's going to help the universe reciprocates almost always. That's something that's kind of be scientifically proven. But I know for a fact, that interview she's talking about, I was 15 years old. There were deans of every college, 15 of them asking me the most esoteric questions. I didn't stutter. And I knew when I left there that it really wasn't just me. And knowing that is also very, very important. That, there's a Isaac Newton said this, that if I have seen farther, it's because I stand on the shoulder of giants. It's the humility, knowing that the people that have come before you and the experience that have shaped you really make you who you are. And not saying it's always about me and I'm the man. It's not about that. It's about saying that, it's a conglomeration of everything that happens that helps you. And that's the idea. And I think that really plays a role. And being mindful at every moment. And we now know scientifically that helps you get the most out of every single moment, whether you want to be the best parent, best teacher, best athlete. Professional teams now, mindfulness practitioners, come and teach them. Because the example I give is if you're pitching in the World Series and it's the 9th inning, it's 2 outs. If you hit a strike, if you get a strike, then the ball game's over. If you don't, then you may lose the game. If you start thinking about that when you pitch, that's what's going to happen. You are going to not hit a strike. So the idea is that they know that in professional sports, but we know that in life, that if you want to be a great parent, just stay in the moment, not worry about, is it what's going to happen later on, or how this is going to affect our children. Just be who you are and be true to yourself. And that's how I do it.
And I think he also learned that from his parents. I mean, we have a prayer room in our home. We pray morning and night. He grew up doing that. There's times when the schedule gets crazy that we've gotten away from it, and we always feel real guilty because Partha was raised that you do not even eat a morsel of food in the morning until you pray, and you don't eat a morsel of food for dinner until you pray. And so I think that's a big lesson that you learned from your mother, your parents, both of them, of course.
It's just practice. They wanted to do it so that we knew that was important. And what it showed us was that, again, that we are not the center of the universe, that there's forces beyond us and show gratitude to everything that you have, and the roof over your head and the food in your table and the parents that you have. They taught us that. And so, and then we try to teach our kids that, if they throw away some food, we tell them, listen, there are kids all over the world that would die for that kind of food. And knowing that, just hearing that helps them understand to be grateful that there are forces beyond themselves. It's easy to get caught up in that whole world of social media, Instagram. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but kids get so like, how popular am I? And let me look at myself again, and how beautiful my kids think I am, or my friends think I am, or whatnot. I think in this day and age, it's critical to understand that it's really not all about you. And the more humility you have, and not that you don't want to succeed or be confident, the more humility you have and understanding that your parents can teach you something, your grandparents can teach you something, your teachers can teach you something, and that respect and that empathy is so critical. That empathy is so critical. And I knew that when I was 13 years old and 12 years old, and I learned about that. And that's still true. And that's it's very rare nowadays when people have empathy. In this day and age, everybody's blaming everybody instead of saying, how can I put myself in their shoes and understand how they're thinking? What is their condition that makes them feel that way? It's not easy, but I think we can teach our kids that. Yeah. So we said about.
Did you have another question, Erin?
Yeah, two. You said, yeah.
Yes, I had one quick, silly little one. What does a typical date night look like? When you guys finally get a chance to go out, just the two of you, what do you talk about?
Oh, we never run out of things to talk about. So
there's not enough hours.
We talk about
pop culture too. We talk about, hey, did you see that new? I mean, we love music. We love, hey, did you see that new video? We watch carpool karaoke. I mean, when we've had a really stressful day, I'm like, okay, there's a new carpool karaoke. We gotta watch it.
Well, we don't have any rules, And people say, well, we're having a date, so we're not going to talk about work or
we do talk about
us. Well, but for us, work is an extension of our lives, So it's not like work is like, it's so horrible. Because a lot of people hate their job. We don't. We feel it's a privilege to be able to do what we're doing every day. But beyond that, I just love her company. She's a super warm person, and she's extremely kind and super empathetic. And the thing is that the biggest turn on I have is that how well she handles herself, and the fact that you have, and I'll say it, and it's a little interesting that you have a person that's raised in the Western world who an hour and a half ago was helping my sister change my dad. It's very uncommon. It's very uncommon. At the end of it, right? At the end of it, you guys have both been there. You fall in love, and all that, the excitement, the pangs, and all, and we still get that. But then there's that mature love. The mature love that tells you this is my partner, that this is somebody whose soul is what I love. And that you can't replace. Because, she may get more lines in 20 years, or I might get more lines, but the soul stays beautiful. And that's what I love about our time together, is that I can experience that soul. Again, we're not in utopia, we're not in a perfect world. Things happen sometimes, and you don't always see eye to eye. But at the end of it, the fact that she's such a beautiful soul, I feel lucky, I feel blessed that I can have that. And so in our date nights, I just revel in that. Whatever we do, it doesn't matter if we are in a dive restaurant or in a great restaurant, if there's music playing or not. I mean, everything, of course, the ambiance helps, but we love to go to new restaurants. Cal always tries to find new interesting places to go to.
I have a list in my phone of all the places.
Here you are. Think about it. I mean, she's raised in a town of 50,000 or something, in a small old town. I've never heard of the town, and a very pretty homogeneous town, and marries somebody who is of a different ethnicity, and also even for being from my ethnicity, I do things very differently. And look at me, I marry someone from a town of 10,000. So we're both very different people, and I think that we're open and adventurous. So we try to do things that are really a lot of fun. You know, when we get the time for anniversaries, we love to go to Vegas.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we love
We
Vegas,
love to go to Vegas. We hate
New
gambling.
York City.
We love the show.
We probably would never like buy a cottage on a lake to retire. We're the type that would like buy, get a little apartment in New York or something. We like action. We like to do stuff.
So we don't have a dearth of stuff. We're not the couple that are texting other people next to each other. You ever seen that? Like, oh, how are you? I'm good. Let me just use my thumbs. And they're next to each other and they're talking to other people. That's not us, because we don't ever run out of things to talk about, which is, I'm not one that never changes.
I feel like the business really helps with that. I mean, when you intimately know all the players that work together, it makes it much easier, because it's a lot of words to say, well, Sally at work, she kind of has this personality, and that's why when she said this to John was extra. Those are just a lot of words.
And,
she's
a lot of fun. She's kind of cute. And
I'll be like in mom clothes, like getting my butt kicked all day long, and I'm like, oh, and he just is flirty, and I'm like, he makes it fun.
And she laughs at all my jokes.
And I think he's surprisingly funny for a doctor.
Surprisingly, look at that. The knife. Please, if you can reach through your computer and come to the back of my.
There's a knife
because
right
there's
here.
There's a knife in my back, and she's put it in there, and every time I move, it hurts.
Aww. Well, I can say that our audience, as well as myself, I'm sure you, Erin, too, are just, I don't want to say impressed, but just feel such warmth in my heart listening to the two of you talk about your love for one another, your respect, your compassion, and everything, and how you raise your children and live your lives. Because, we do know how important that is, and how much, we strive for it in our own lives, as well as teach other people. And, we don't have half as much going on. Well, maybe half as much as you do. And we've got a business marriage going on as well. So
right. We certainly are not perfect, and that's definitely not a message that we want to get across. We have moments,
but the attempt should be
without
made.
a doubt. But
yes. And I think it comes across loud and clear.
Well, we will both thank you both for taking the time to do this. It's a labor of love, and you guys know how hard it is. We know how hard it is to do what you're doing every single day, because it's not easy. And you don't get a bunch of people to tell you, here you go, this is how you do it, and here are all the blueprints, you're doing it.
And then we give you a bunch of money to support your ideas, and it's
so we appreciate you taking the time and making a huge difference in this planet and being what we call a health hero, because you guys are doing it every day. So we appreciate you guys both.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have our final question that we like to ask all of our guests.
Yes.
Okay.
Given that we are building connected communities, and this is our passion, bringing people together, we're curious to know what community means to you guys in your lives.
It's one of the pillars, tribe, for us.
Community and a tribe means so much for us, because we're lucky that our biological family, the people we just happen to be, biologically related to, are part of our tribe, and they really help us every day, including my sister, including my parents, including her parents, including my wife. But I think community, in a sense, can extend way beyond that, because it can be our city and our nation and the world and the planet. And what we realized is that with the advent of social media, digital media, you can reach people all over the planet, and that be your community. When she said, an important thing, if you listen to her, she said that we want to deliver water in countries that don't have water, and that's an important goal to us, because to me the next revolution of humanity is not going to be the next computer, not going to be the next piece of machinery, but it's going to be human heart and empathy reaching out. When all of a sudden that the minds that come together will then say, if there's a kid in South America that's suffering, it's not their problem, it's our problem. And that's when wars begin to go away. That's when you don't have misappropriation of funds or people take advantage of each other, which is often the real reason why you have so much conflict. So I think the next revolution, and it's really happening. It's really happening more and more every day. Young people are realizing that, you know what, we really are not that different from everybody on the planet. And so to us, that sense of community, it's growing and growing. And when it gets to the point where we realize that humanity is #humanity, that is our community, that's when it's going to explode. That's when we take the next leap in our race. You know, it's not going to be this industrial revolution or next computer. It's going to be that. So that's how we think of community. And we now know from scientific evidence, when you have community, when you have a great support system, that you actually tend to do healthy behaviors better.
And you love and respect others, even when they're failing.
Right.
Even when they're doing it wrong, and you're loving in that and say, I totally get it. Like, I get how you're there in that moment, and you're struggling, and you're lashing out, and you're angry, and you stole or whatever. It's like, I totally get. You're human. You're failing. I'm failing all the time. So I think if we have that empathy with one another versus, well, I don't like so-and-so and this and that, and they did this and they did that. It's just, okay, you know what? I've done things, said things I wish I wouldn't have done and said. They are doing things I wish they wouldn't do or say. I'm sure they regret it too. So, you know, if we can have acceptance and love in those processes and maybe guide them like we do even our children. Hey, how could you have handled that different? Why'd you hit your brother? Why'd you take his toy? Maybe, you know, I know you're frustrated.
That happened 2 hours ago.
I'm frustrated too. Like, we got to talk about it. You know, maybe we could have handled that a different way. Let's practice.
And then we now know that people actually live healthier, longer, and not just longer, but with wellness and play with their grandchildren. So to us, community is a huge pillar of health and being your own health hero. That sense of community or tribe can extend from your biological family to your work family and really across the globe. So we're excited about when that's really going to take place. I really do believe that's the next revolution of humanity.
Yeah, I love what you said.
It really is.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Very beautiful. Well, thank you guys so much for your time today. We really, really appreciated.
Oh, it was lovely.
And
thank you for having us.
Thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you.
Same.
Where can people find out more about you or connect with you or follow you?
So our website is askdrnandi.com. So ASKDRNANDI.com.
And you can find them on all the social media just with Ask Dr. Nandi.
So Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, all of it, Ask Dr. Nandi. And we try to talk about the stuff we just talked about and make posts about it. And sometimes it's kind of funny, sometimes it's serious. So we enjoy ourselves.
And we love hearing from you guys. You know, gosh, it's nice to spend an hour with great people like you and then get a message saying, hey, I heard you on Connected Communities. I mean, those kinds of things go a long way, and it would be great to be able to give that information back. So we always would love to hear from anyone.
Wonderful.
Fabulous.
Thank you so much, both of
Thank
you.
you so much.
It's a pleasure.